This is the PowerMac 7100, the middle child from Apple's first wave of PowerPC machines. It was meant to wean users of the old 68K Macs, but the transition didn't go as smoothly as Apple had hoped. Hi there, my name's Bruce Rain from Brankus Creations. In 2020, Apple announced it was moving away from Intel CPUs to its own Apple Silicon, an ARM-based architecture that brought massive improvements in both performance and efficiency. That transition was smooth, which is not surprising, because Apple had already done this twice before. Let's wind the clock back to 2005, when Apple moved from PowerPC to Intel. At the time, laptops were booming and Apple was hitting the limits of the power-hungry PowerPC chips. If they wanted to compete, they needed something more efficient, and Intel was their way forward. Once again, a pretty smooth transition. Apple had developed Rosetta, a translation layer that allowed PowerPC applications to run on Intel Macs, often with surprisingly little performance loss. Now we go back to 1994, the Lillehammer Winter Olympics, the passing of Kurt Cobain, Ace of Base saw The Sign, and Nancy Kerrigan had some trouble with her knee. And Apple was ready to move on from the Motorola 68K architecture, switching to the RISC-based PowerPC CPUs. Apple released 3 new machines: the low-end PowerMac 6100 in a family-size pizza box like the Quadra 610, the high-end 8100 in a mini tower similar to the Quadra 800, and this is where our hero, the mid-range PowerMac 7100, joins the story, in a desktop case like the Quadra 650. All of them use the new PowerPC 601 CPU, with different clock speeds depending on the model. I picked up this 7100 a few weeks ago after responding to a post in a Facebook enthusiast group. The owner was offering this computer and a few other bits and pieces for free, the only condition being you had to come and pick it up. He's located about an hour west of me, so I put up my hand and drove out to grab it the following weekend. The pictures made it look a little rough, but after a clean it's actually in really good condition. The internal hard drive was unfortunately dead, so I replaced it with a ZuluSCSI hard drive emulator. And while looking through my software collection, I found this, the original System 7.5 installer CD for this model. The 7100 was available in a 66MHz or 80MHz version, as well as the option for a pre-installed audio-visual expansion card, with these variants having an added AV in the title. The 7100 came standard with a floppy drive, a 250, 500 or 700MB hard drive, 2x CD-ROM, either 8 or 16MB of RAM, 3 new bus expansion slots, a PDS slot, onboard video, and in many configurations the PDS slot was already populated with a video card, allowing for dual display support. It also included this, one of Apple's stupidest contributions to computing history, the HDI 45 DisplayPort. It was designed for use with Apple's Audio Vision display, but bad luck using it with anything else if you don't have an adapter. So, back to the release of these new PowerMacs in 1994. On paper, this should have been a crowning moment for Apple, a brand new RISC-based architecture backed by IBM and Motorola, and a full lineup of machines from entry-level right through to high-end workstations. But the reality was quite different. This PowerMac 7100 80AV originally sold for $3,700 US. That's equivalent to around $8,000 in today's money. So can you imagine the surprise when users found their brand new computer could actually be slower than what they were replacing? Allow me to explain. PowerPC CPUs can't run applications written for the Motorola 68K processors. So Apple built a compatibility layer into the system that translated 68K code into PowerPC instructions on the fly. This made the transition seamless, but it also meant that if you were still running older software, performance could be, shall we say, underwhelming? compared to native PowerPC applications. These days, software updates are constant. We're used to it, sometimes on a daily basis. But back in 1994, not so much. The internet was still in its infancy, and most computers weren't even connected. Software was expensive and came in boxes, and once you installed it, you just kept using it for years as long as it did the job. But to really take advantage of the PowerPC architecture, software had to be written specifically for it. So your old copy of Photoshop 2.5 just wasn't going to cut it. So when the first wave of PowerMacs hit the market, the industry was buzzing and the reviews were favourable. But the real-world experiences told a different story, and that reputation has stuck ever since. The best way to illustrate this is with a few real-world tests. I'll run some Photoshop filters, play a bit of Doom, and render a 3D scene to show exactly where this Mac excels and where it struggles. The first thing I need to do is set some benchmarks with a real 68K Macintosh. So it's time to break out the big guns. This is my Quadra 950. It has a 33MHz CPU, which isn't the fastest 68040 Mac available. That accolade goes to the Quadra 840AV with a 40MHz CPU. But the 950 does represent a typical high-end system from the era, and this one is fully loaded with 256MB of RAM. A big thank you to Will from CayMac Vintage, who supplied 8 of these beautiful 16MB RAM sims, complete with activity LEDs that blink as data is read and written. I'm using the same ZuluSCSI hard drive emulator and the same operating system as the 7100, so the test should be pretty fair. For the Photoshop tests, I have allocated 36MB of RAM to the application, and I've tested opening a 1MB JPEG image, the Gaussian blur filter, the unsharp mask filter, and saving the JPEG back to disk. Now it's time for a quick game of Doom 2. It's currently set to full screen display and medium texture detail. It's not really playable in this form, looking more like a slideshow than a game. So let's pull the texture detail back to low and reduce the viewer size a bit. In this form, it's quite playable, maybe not especially immersive, but definitely playable. There's also quite a bit of noticeable tearing in the frame refresh, which isn't surprising when using the Quadra's built-in video. This version of Doom doesn't have any frame rate output options, so my judgment of playable is a personal one. And for my last test, I'll do a 3D render using KPT Bryce. If you don't know Bryce, it was developed by Kai Kraus and released in 1994. It allowed the creation of realistic 3D simulations of outdoor environments using fractal geometry to create mountain ranges and coastlines. Pretty pointless, but a nice bit of eye candy. This should really push the limits of these computers. I'm doing a 520 by 354 pixel 3D render with anti-aliasing of this sample landscape. And at 1 hour, 43 minutes and 40 seconds render time, it's clear that this was no walk in the park for the Quadra 950. So there's our baseline. Now it's time to run the same tests on the 7100. But here's the catch. I'm going to run all of these tests using non-PowerPC native code. Code that was written for the Motorola 68K chip. The purpose of this test is to demonstrate the experience a user may have had if they hadn't updated their old software before buying a PowerMac computer. The 7100 has 48MB of RAM installed, and I have assigned 36MB of that to Photoshop. I'm running the same suite of tests, opening a 1MB JPEG image, the Gaussian blur filter, the unsharp mask filter, and saving the JPEG back to disk. So what about Doom? Once again, I'm starting with a full screen display and medium texture detail, and it's definitely worse than the 68K. I've pulled back the texture detail to low and shrunk the display down to the size of a postage stamp, and now we have something that sort of resembles playability. And for our final test, the 3D render in Bryce. This one's a killer. Over 7 hours of rendering. Now let's look at the results. The green bars show that the PowerPC using emulation is slower than the 68K Mac right across the board. The 3D render was more than 4 times slower. Let that sink in for a moment. Imagine you've just spent $3,700 on a brand new computer and your performance has actually gone backwards. Maybe you missed the memo about needing PowerPC native software, or maybe you were using specialized software and the developer hadn't released an update yet. You sit down, run your usual tasks, and everything is slower. This is the sort of thing that can ruin a computer's reputation forever.
And that transition happened about 10 years ago in the mid-90s. I wasn't here then, but the team then did a great job from everything I hear. And the PowerPC...
All of this paints a pretty gloomy picture for the 7100, but here's where we give it a chance to redeem itself. I'll now run those same tests with PowerPC native software so we can see the true capabilities of this Mac. The native PowerPC Photoshop tests are chalk and cheese compared to using the 68K software under emulation, and it consistently finishes first. Doom is a huge improvement, no settings needed to be changed. This is running full screen with the texture detail on medium and it is totally playable. In fact, I really had to drag myself away because I was having too much fun. Okay, that'll do. And now the last test, the Bryce 3D render. The native PowerPC finishes first by a long way. These results are seriously impressive. The PowerPC running native software is between 3 and 5 times faster than the Quadra 950. Here are the Quadra 950 and the PowerMac 7100 native results side by side. If you were previously having to wait 50 seconds for an unsharp mask to complete, and now you're only having to wait 10 seconds, I see that as a huge productivity boost. And only 13 minutes to complete the 3D render. That's nearly 8 times faster than the Quadra. So, do the early PowerMac family using the PowerPC 601 CPU really deserve to be derided the way they are? In my opinion, no they don't. While they may all have recycled Apple case designs, the hardware inside was a significant upgrade and the first step into Apple's 12-year foray into the PowerPC architecture. My tests have shown some genuinely impressive speed improvements over the computers they replaced, as long as you are using PowerPC native software. The 7100 had 3 NuBus expansion ports. If we're to be honest, NuBus was getting a little long in the tooth by this time, but I think including them was a good move, helping users transition from their existing hardware. You were spoiled for choice with the OS you could use, from System 7.1.2 all the way through to OS 9.1. I don't really have anything nice to say about Apple's orphan HDI 45 DisplayPort, especially as a collector. These days there seem to be way more of these computers than there are display adapters for them. Apple's transition to PowerPC may have been a little messy, but they learned from their mistakes and it laid the foundation for the seamless transitions that followed to Intel and more recently to Apple Silicon. So, what are your thoughts on the first generation of Power Macintoshes? Let me know in the comments. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and please consider subscribing to the channel. Thanks for watching.